Hands Across the Years by Jan Leopard of Mount Annan, 2567. Narrated by Janine Penfold. Olga sat comfortably in a recliner in her room at the nursing home. She had just come back from lunch and was looking forward to reading a book recently given to her. Picking the book up, she glanced at her hands and thought, I really do have old people hands these days. Noticing the crooked fingers, the wrinkles and sunspots on the backs of them, the swollen knuckles, and her wedding ring. That still fits, she thought, turning it around on her wedding finger. She relaxed and felt her mind drifting. Her hands had triggered off so many memories, and now were no longer hands with long, slender fingers, beautifully presented nails, strong and coloured with nail polish. Hands she had been so proud of. And when her husband-to-be had slipped an engagement ring on her finger, her hand showed off the ring beautifully. Drifting. So many memories. Her hands sewing her trousseau, holding her wedding bouquet. And then, when their firstborn arrived, her hands had never been as busy as they were then. Washing machines were just coming onto the market, and they could not afford one at that time, so hand washing was done each day. Toweling nappies to be washed, baby clothes and bibs also, all wrung dry with her hands, then pegged to the clothesline. Hands which removed splinters, washed gravelly knees and applied band-aids, hands which soothed fevered brows of her sick children, hands which held her upset and worried youngsters, hands that waved her children off when they left home for uni or overseas. Hand care did not seem important in those days, money needing to be used for more practical purposes. She remembers how her fingers used to be knocked on bathroom basin taps while she cleaned them, jarred on hard surfaces when she tripped, fingers and hands used to squeeze water from mops when washing floors, carrying groceries from the corner store in string bags whose handles cut into her fingers. It was just how it was. All wives, young and old, took for granted the household tasks involving fingers and hands. Her favourite relaxation was knitting and crocheting. She was proud that her children all wore knitted garments made by her, but keeping them clean was a major task. Hand-washing the garments with Lux, the washing flakes of the day, in lukewarm water, then rinsing them in clear water, carefully laying them out on towels in the shade, not the sun, for white garments would yellow in the sunlight, making sure the items were lying correctly so as not to stretch or dry out of shape. All part of wash day. But the knitting of garments relaxed her. She would sit of an evening beside her husband, listening to the radio and working wonders with yarns and needles. She still enjoys knitting, now for the great-grandchildren. Olga's mind rambled on, to the days when, after her children had left school and had their own careers, she decided to take up part-time work as a typist. How happy she had been. Hours had been spent learning how to touch type. She became proficient, and her fingers found the keys quickly and accurately. She often wondered how many miles her fingers had covered in those days, and then later on, learning computer skills, her fingers had danced over the keyboard. What an improvement to a manual typewriter. Sadly, now her typing skills have decreased, fingers not hitting the correct keys as she types, so it takes time for a story to unfold as she has to keep going back and correcting words. She remembers, as she rests comfortably and relaxed, to the times her hands created delectable eatables in her kitchen, hand-operated beaters for ever-so-light sponges, stirring concoctions over the heat so custards and the like did not go lumpy. And at the end of it all, the pile of washing up to be done, followed by drying and putting away. But she had loved entertaining and was happy to be using her hands to create these dishes. She had an upright gas oven with 2 bars of jets burning opposite each other along the floor of the oven. And to test whether temperature was right to bake a sponge, she simply inserted her hand a little way to feel the degree of warmth. If it felt right, then that was the time to place the filled sponge tins into it. The number of vegetables she had peeled, the vast number of peas shelled, other veggies chopped, diced and grated, the number of tears shed whilst peeling and chopping onions, and always a pile of washing up to be done. Everything so easy these days with so many mod cons, she thinks. She opens her eyes and looks at her hands once more, fingering her wedding ring again. It was placed on her finger by her husband on their wedding day 66 years ago, and now, like its wearer, is showing signs of age. The etching around the ring has worn, but it is still her wedding ring. Her mind carries her back to their early days of marriage, the love, the intimate touch of her hand against his thigh, of her hands holding him hard against her, and of the passion of their love for each other. Then another memory surfaces, of her hand gently and lovingly touching the temple of her son as he lay dying in a hospital bed, and then at his funeral, grasping her husband's hand. Now, as she looks at her hands, her fingers no longer supple and able to perform their function well, she muses. For what I need, my hands still perform for me. Each time period of my life, the then and the now, has its own comforts and blessings. And I am content with that. The end.